we'll do more of. Number 2, follow up on discussions from the last meeting. A is Isabella's request for books and magazines. The future of meetings, seniors and community unable to join meetings because of lack of equipment, technology skills, etc. Long lines at businesses, including banks, post office, etc., making it extremely difficult for the seniors and disabled. And then it's, the usual new business announcements next meeting. Okay, any questions about the agenda?
Yes, I wish to add an item to the agenda.
I'm sorry?
I wish to add an item to the agenda.
Okay, what's up?
I have a resolution to present to the committee for their approval.
Okay, got it.
And could you explain to me how to unraise my hand so I'm not interrupting people?
You got me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So unraise your hand. Are you on the computer, Jay?
Yes, it's unraised now.
But are you on the computer?
No, a phone.
Oh, you can't do that on the phone unless it's, you can. It's just a little more work.
Okay, thanks. It's fine. It's been resolved.
Easy on the computer, that's why, yeah.
Okay, I expect other people to be joining us, but let's begin. So again, welcome everybody to the meeting. We had,
thank you.
We shared a couple of things. Hi, Sally. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi, sorry. I'm on my phone. I don't really know how to use it that well with Zoom, so.
That's okay. That's what I have to do when I'm at home. So, you know, just hang on. Just want to check in. Joseph, you were not able to be at the last meeting for circumstances beyond your control, I know. How's everything going with you?
Thank God. I'm actually not in the city now. We're in Maryland, and my mother-in-law's home. So a little more space here for myself and for the kids. But watching and listening to what's going on in the city closely. I can't say it makes me want to return home soon.
Nice.
But that's where we're at. But otherwise, we're good. Thank God.
So Carol, how are things going with you?
Where is your mother-in-law's home? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, okay.
Do they have another room?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I have to go outside, I'll show you the pool.
That's nice. Where is it?
I'm Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, wow.
Oh, how wonderful. That's you. Terrific.
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank God. Yeah, I do. I just.
No, I really don't need another room, but maybe in the future, not too distant future.
Yeah.
Jay, how are things going for you? Jay?
Yeah, hello.
How are things going for you?
About as usual.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. We're still in a pandemic.
Right.
And there are still major problems. I think with the help of Fern Hertzberg, I have finally gotten the city to stop delivering uncalled for food deliveries.
Oh, good for you.
Fern Hertzberg had the same problem.
Right.
And the only way she could end it was to send a letter on her behalf and then my behalf to the commissioner. At the same time,
before you do, I'll look
citizens have not gotten any of the food that they requested. So this is a problem still.
Right, right. So we've been hearing, it's amazing that we, you know, having trouble getting food for the people that need it, and yet people that don't need it and don't want it can't stop the delivers. Yo Maris, welcome. Yo Maris, you there?
She's muted.
Need to unmute yourself if you're muted.
Hi, everybody.
There you are. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm here.
For those that haven't been in the meeting, Yomara Smith is a new public member to the committee.
Great.
Hi, everyone.
Right.
Hope everybody's safe and doing well.
I'm sorry.
So does that mean you have 2 public members now?
3.
3. Oh, good. Okay, cool.
I mean, you know.
Yay, the more the merrier.
Works. It works for us.
No, it's perfect. More voices.
Sally, anything you want to share? I know you're keeping busy. Sally?
Yeah, and also because one of the reasons I wanted to be in this meeting, and I'm also on another meeting with Fountain House right now, is that you had mentioned when you did your summary that mental health needs were moving to your top priority. Yep. And I just wanted to sort of weigh in on that and get some input. It doesn't have to be in this meeting, but to sort of see where your thinking is on that. And then also I'm working with WEACT on the HEAT initiative. I'm on their climate democracy working group. And we're looking at heat issues and cooling centers and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to get, and I'm not sure if it's through you or through Fern, what the issues are that our community is facing with respect to getting the air conditioners that were supposed to be provided by the city, how the eligibility might have changed, and also, utilization and what they might do during the pandemic. What's going to happen to cooling centers. So I sort of just wanted to weigh in and sort of listen. But I think as, with our community in general, I think, if this pandemic ever ends, the next crisis we're going to face is mental health care services because of the crises that people have been through and the fact that we are not providing. Many of the inpatient psych units have closed in our hospitals, including at Allen Pavilion in Brooklyn, et cetera, because those units have been transferred into COVID units. And I think we're going to face a huge crisis.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why I'm here. Plus, I love your meetings.
Well, I actually have updates on some of the things you mentioned.
Okay.
So
great. And otherwise, the other issue that's come up in Inwood, I guess, is the noise issue. And I don't know if they're facing it, especially at Isabella.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm hoping Betty Lehman said she would be joining us. So I hope that she's able to do that so that we can, get direct information from her. So.
This is Maria. I have a question for Sally. Sally, are these issues that you would like to add to the new business part of the meeting, or just these are just random questions that you have? Because I would like to say something about the AC, the air condition, for information. So I'll wait until the end, if you know. Yeah,
let me just go through some of the updates that I've had from other meetings and my dealings with other members of the board. Isabella's request for books and magazines. There was an issue because Daryl Cochrane had brought some magazines up to Isabella, and security seemed to not know anything about that. And that was brought up at the general meeting. So actually Betty was, on that meeting as well, and Betty took care of that issue. she went, she was up there the next day and spoke to security. So everybody's on board now. So if you do bring, books or magazines that they've requested for the residents, let them know that they're from the community board and they're for Jessica Garcia, who is the director of recreation up there. Okay. As far as other issues with Isabella, I'm going to wait.
Great.
I'm going to wait and hope Betty joins us. Sorry.
Can I ask a really dumb question about the contributions?
No questions are dumb. My teachers always told me that.
Thank you very much. My teachers never told me that. It was more like, Sally, another question. I think the library has some special procedures once they reopen, how they're going to handle books that come back into circulation, et cetera. And I just wonder if Isabella has thought about that. Like, when magazines come in, are they going to quarantine the magazines for a couple of weeks? And how do you address the risk of transmission? And I just don't know, but I think that's something, maybe Danita at the Inwood Library. I'd be happy to ask her what the procedures are, but she could explain to us so we could say to Isabella, the best practices from New York Public Library are that you receive them, then they're held for a week before they're distributed, or 2 weeks, or whatever the quarantine is for paper materials.
Okay, sounds like a good idea.
This goes to the Audubon Avenue facility, right?
Right.
The magazines and books?
Yes.
Good.
And the books, not extensive books. I mean, they have a library, they have books, but simple reading books, books with a lot of pictures, because a lot of the residents are, quite elderly, and some have Alzheimer's. They like to look at picture books, maybe travel magazines, maybe, books, books that have different kinds of pictures, whether they're history books or, but some that there's not a lot of reading involved because they don't have the concentration, and the ability to focus for, lengthy period of time. So.
And maybe people that have children or grandchildren that they have those really nice books, and maybe they can bring them over. I mean, they are very amusing, some of them, and some of the, the kids over have seen them over and over again. Maybe they could donate those. I think that would be, great.
Loves us.
Okay.
I'll look at it.
Sorry. Okay. The next item, the future of the meetings and seniors involved in joining the meetings. I mean, there was some suggestion raised by the, actually, I think by Fern and some of we talked about it at the Waikoa meeting, the possibility of using tablets, having tablets for the seniors. And they seem to be a easier way to navigate the system and get into YouTube or something like that for the activities that are actually being given by the centers. So I don't know, at least that's one thing that's being thought about to involve seniors. Now, involving them in Zoom meetings like this, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But from what I'm told, and I don't have a tablet, but I'm told the tablets are much less expensive than a laptop. So it would make it a little more reasonable, to be involved. So if there are, any thoughts about that, or, sources of purchasing tablets for seniors that can't afford them, I don't know. We'll see. If anybody has any comments on that.
Well, I think that this is Maria. Maybe we could take a look at what resources we may have up here that they could donate a certain number of tablets. I'm looking at that project, or that they had the New York Presbyterian Hospital for the businesses to, the incentive to the businesses that they gave them allocation. They had to apply that. Maybe that would be an issue that for the second round that they have. They already have one to help out for paying rent and salaries to some of the businesses that were closed. And now there is a second round that maybe something could be done. I will ask Julio Batista to give me some information, see if we can get some, you know.
That's what I was going to ask, if you could check into that. That'd be great.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The next item on the agenda is the long lines that seniors and everybody else have to wait in to get into certain businesses. Some of the places don't have these long lines anymore. I think people have figured out when to go when the lines are shorter, but there are still a lot of places that still have these long lines. I spoke to Domingo Estevez, who's the chair of the Business Development Committee. I spoke to him yesterday, and one of the thoughts that he had was trying to reach out to, you know, rather than change the hours, because some of them have hours for seniors at like 8 o'clock in the morning, you know. I mean, I don't know about all of you who are seniors. Hi, Richard. I don't know about all of you who are seniors, but I don't get out of my house at 8 o'clock in the morning unless I'm going to Isabella for the exercise group, which isn't happening. So in this day and age, you know, if I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing good. But rather than trying to change hours for all these businesses to a later hour, suggestion from him was to try to have businesses accommodate the seniors if there's a long line, to let the seniors and disabled jump to the front of the line. You know, and they always, when there are those long lines, there is somebody monitoring at the doorway, you know, letting people in a few at a time as people.
I have a question. Is there any legislation on this? Meaning, is anyone dictating that the businesses need to do this, or just if they feel like it because they're good people, they're doing this?
What do you mean?
Meaning, if I own a Rite Aid, do I have to have a senior hour at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, or just if I decide to on my own, and every business is deciding on their own?
I think that businesses are deciding on their own, because there are a lot of, you know.
So that, right. So then you're depending on their goodwill to do this.
Correct.
If
However,
we had more support from you know, elected officials and making this more of something that they more pressure somehow.
Yeah.
In other words, if I own a business and I'm not a nice guy, there's no reason to do this.
Right. Right. But we have Eli who has a business. Okay. Elizar. We have Isidro who's on the bid. We have Domingo who's the chair of the Business Development Committee. And we're hoping that between all these people, perhaps we can reach out to the businesses and, you know, plea for their help with this.
Right. It's
you know, during this crisis.
It's also the chain stores. It's not just the local businesses. It's the waiting online in the larger supermarkets that might not even be owned by our local businesses.
Right. However, they have managers, and the manager can, I think, you know, as a courtesy, do that. They can, you know, they're the manager, so they have the ability to do, I think, this kind of thing.
I recall that the local bank, I know that the Apple Bank, the Chase Bank years ago, because I used to go to the bank with my mom, they have a senior line just specifically for seniors, so people with some disabilities. And if they have someone online, they will take care of them. And then there's another, you know, regular line for this thing. I think that about the 8 o'clock in the morning, there was no way that I'm going to get out of my house, get up my bed at 8 o'clock to get at 6 o'clock to get ready and things like that. But most of the seniors also have home attendants, and they don't start working, you know, that early in the morning.
Right.
So, you know, they are on their own. So I think that would be, you know, how many, you know, really large businesses do we have that seniors have to go out, you know, regularly, you know, to buy things. So I think it's really nice that they will allow. I think it will be up to the people online to be kind enough to say, could you just take, you know, go ahead of me and things like that. I will feel much better to see something like that done than implementing or trying to implement some rules and regulation on the business. So I know that you know, I really love when someone you know, I'm riding on a, you know, on a bus and people say, will you take us to my seat? And I, you know, I love it when they do that. But I think that if, you know, some of the seniors are online, I think that we should be able to say, okay, would you like to go ahead of me? Unless they have a cart full of like 55 items. But anyway, that would be something that we need to promote, to be kind to one another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, Eleazar's, you know, on the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yeah, I was
so
gonna say that.
so we can plead, you know, we have an in to pleading with the Chamber of Commerce to help us with this too. So I think that was a good idea. I need to speak with Eleazar and Isidro yet. And, you know, so I will do that.
Yeah, I want to pick up on a whole bunch of things that people said.
Okay.
I don't think there's a legislative solution here. I don't think it's entirely the goodwill of business people that's happening. I think for the chains, there's been top-down pressure to do something like this, and it's come from different places. I think, and I don't think there's going to be a one-size-fits-all solution to this.
Yeah.
How seniors would be given priority in businesses, that's maybe a little more challenge than it sounds like for local stores with narrow aisles and small spaces, and what it means to weave one of us through those spaces in close contact. I think if Ellie, Isidro, and Domingo are willing to do some contact and figure it out, they may just come back with good information on how to work with this. But I think having them as a next step is of much value, and perhaps if we can involve all of the elected officials more in this in much the same way to figure out how to get to some problem solving on this.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
And I think it's for, Richard was talking about as well, it seems to like the bigger businesses are the ones that have these issues. The only places that you observe lines are the banks, though for some reason the WebMD or one of the urgent cares are the ones that have lines. Most other places at this point don't. But I can only speak for a certain sector of the community that I've observed a few things. So that might be a little more doable because the banks seem to be able to do that and kind of walk people ahead and have their own mechanisms. I know that if you have certain things that you don't need, they're able to skip people around and they don't have an issue with that. So that might be a good bet just to talk to them. So I think it would be good for Isidro and Eleazar and Domingo to work on that. So this seems to be a major push.
I just had one comment.
Dolly?
Yeah, when you're talking about like urgent care centers and that kind of stuff, I know that the better healthcare providers are very specific in terms of arrival times, in terms of getting people in, because appointments can be scheduled at all sorts of different times, and I think that it's especially important when we're dealing with healthcare. That I had an appointment the other day, and they basically said to me, like when you call make the appointment, they always say like be there an hour beforehand. And then when I actually got to the office that I was going to, they said arrive no more than 15 minutes before your appointment, and then you can come up, because they don't want a lot of people hanging out in waiting rooms.
And I screwed up.
And that kind of stuff. So I think that there needs to be some outreach, I guess, to urgent care facilities and other groups that are dealing with specific medical needs, which I don't consider business outreach.
The volume down.
Well, I'm gonna say something in regard.
Hello? Hello?
Carol?
Yeah. Hi. Is the person talking?
No, go ahead, Carol.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. Somebody else was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. She didn't say it. That's why I thought maybe I was cut off.
Hello. Yes.
Ah.
Hi.
Sure.
Hi. I wanted to say something in regards to the lines and the businesses. I mean, somehow I understand that it's not a regulation or a law to do that, but if the committee sends a communication to businesses, they will do that during the pandemic time. I'm sure they will, because that's not a big of an issue. And they also have to, I believe they understand it's, you know, it's making it more difficult to elderly people to stay online for so long.
Right.
So if we do send a request, or the committee or the board sends a request to businesses, I'm sure they will set up a line where the elderly will have I mean priority, but not, you know, in a organized way. Let's say 2 elderly and then 1 regular person, depending on how many is the people that can be inside. I understand some businesses say no more than 6, no more than 5. So something like that. Like let's give priority to 2 elderly people, and then 2 regular people, and then 2 more, and like that. I don't see anything wrong with it during this time. It's very you know, the elderly is anxious and it's having problems and waiting in line under the sun or the heat, or, you know, we have to, there's something we could do about it. And I think we should request that. And I'm sure the businesses will not say no, will not, you know, get upset with that.
Carol, did you want to say something? Or? No. Okay. I think, you know, I agree with all of you. I mean, I think that the businesses will not fight this. We just have to organize around pleading to them. And so if we get, you know, our three board people who have access in a familiar way with those businesses, and the what do you call it? What am I trying to say? Anyway, that we can accomplish this. So hopefully, you know, within, you know, long before the next meeting, you know, we can organize this. So I will be talking to all 3 of those people and see what we can get going, okay? And even if we can get it accomplished at some of the businesses, it's better than nothing. So
yes, that is right.
Okay. I just want to say a couple of things about under new business, and then I can open it up. You know, the city bikes are installing stations in our community. There was some concern expressed about city bike stations being on, a lot of them being on sidewalks that are narrow and therefore shortening, you know, the ADA access getting by those stations, people with wheelchairs or walkers or whatever being, and, you know, regular people trying to get by those stations in a reasonable way. MTA has promised that if there's seems to be compromised ADA access, they would not put a station there. So, and they've said that at a couple of different meetings. So hopefully they will keep to their word. But if anybody sees anything that seems to be against that, please let me know, because I'm also on the Traffic and Transportation Committee, so I can bring that up there, okay? Anything to say about that? No. The other thing I'm concerned about is the tables and chairs outside restaurants, on sidewalks and on the curbs, that are now being allowed, although the businesses have to apply for a permit to do that. Those tables are not 6 feet apart. There is no social distancing there.
Right. And I think they're going to open up Audubon. I think I read that that's being opened up too. So that's another street that's going to be impacted. But yeah,
right. But all streets are being impacted because there are these tables and chairs outside of restaurants.
The sidewalks are not navigable.
And they're building, you know, these platforms on the curb in front of the restaurants, but their tables are too close together. That's the problem. People, you can't get by. On 172 and Broadway, this new restaurant, Havana Heights, has tables and chairs, you know, on top of each other. So
I don't know if that's something that the guidelines are fairly specific in terms of, you know, what the layout is supposed to be. I don't know if that is something that if they're, you know, that could also be addressed by a CEDRO or someone, you know, in business development.
It's actually DOT. DOT is in charge of this. And so I'm going to be putting in a call to 311 to complain about 3 different places that I see that there's a problem. So, okay.
Or what you could also do, Mary, you could also reach out to the councilman's office because they've been having communications with folks and making sure that they understand the guidelines. Because I feel like some people just don't. So that might be a good bet as well.
I think I think the guidelines are fairly straightforward. I just, at least in my neighborhood, I think it's more businesses are hurting and they're trying to get away with as much as they can. So you can, because they're trying to make up for lost revenue that they don't know will ever come back. And now that, you know, the decision was made, which I think was a good decision not to open the insides, you know, people are, you know, basically struggling for their lives. And I think that we have to address the fact that, you know, as much as we want the economy to get back together, we don't want it at the cost of human life. And that's the problem. You know, this is a real public health and public safety issue.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, I'm understanding that because I'm a person who's very much against the, you know, the unenclosed, you know, sidewalk cafes or enclosed, whatever it might be, if they're compromising the ability for the disabled to get by. And that's what's happening. I have my walker, and let me tell you, I often have to wait for the other line to go by before I can, you know, navigate through. So,
well, not to mention also the Revel scooters and all that kind of stuff, you know, riding up and down. I mean, it's terrifying. So I don't, you know, I have been pretty much staying inside, but I'll tell you something, you know, after it's dark, when it's dark enough for fireworks to go off, there's no way I'm going outside. Because not only are people idiots for setting them off, but they're idiots who don't have particularly good aim. And I really don't want a Roman candle landing in my stomach. So, and I'm sure that those same concerns are affecting people at Isabella and the elderly throughout our community. People can't sleep and they don't feel safe when they go outside. So.
Right. Jay, was that you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I took a brief survey. I walked between 187th Street and Fort Washington and 175th in Broadway yesterday. And I didn't see one restaurant that had actually followed the guidelines, which in addition to 6 feet apart for the tables include having a barrier and allowing for 8 feet of sidewalk space for pedestrians beyond the barrier.
Would you be willing to call in a complaint to 311?
Well, I called in a complaint to 311 about the first restaurant that opened before tables were permitted, and nothing was done about it. In addition to that, I spoke to the head of the Business Improvement District and asked him to explain to the restaurant owner that he may be jeopardizing his liquor license. But none of that helped. So I have my doubts whether the city is willing to enforce those rules in Washington Heights. I'm not aware of the situation at all in Inwood, though.
Well, I think the more that we call in the complaints, so, you know, at least there's a record of the complaints being, you know, and it's also, like I said, those rules are being implemented, and I don't know about monitoring by DOT. So, you know, we have to find out who in DOT that we next go to, and I will follow through on that. Because as we all know, 311 complaints don't always get looked into at all, if ever. So the next step, I think, would be to go directly to DOT. Sorry?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say my experience with 311 is the main purpose it serves is to divert calls from 911 that don't belong with 911, as opposed to responding to problems.
Yeah, I hear you. So, you know, this is...
Hi, this is Maria. Could you hear me for a little second?
Yep.
Okay. I don't think that the 311, when they set up the 311, it was to divert complaints made directly to the community boards. The community boards used to get all these complaints and then channel them to the proper agencies. So they combine everything under the 311. But I think that in order to be fair to businesses, if I am going to be coming into a place or use the sidewalk, I will say to the whoever is sitting me, they're using that the table are a little too close to each other. I suppose I don't want to feel that they don't feel that we are attacking them after all this period that they didn't have any businesses. So I think that we have to be a little subtle about how we complain, and maybe they will comply. Maybe they, you know, some of them never have a permit to have outside businesses. So this is something to them. So we need to be a little, you know, careful about, you know, how we go about this thing. I think that they will hear us. If we, the same thing that I've been talking about with the police department, some of the meetings with businesses that provide liquor, I said to them, if you see someone that have one drink too many, please let them know that this is a community, residential community, that they should go either home, don't serve them any more liquor, and that any noise that they made outside of the business is going to be impacted on their business. So I think we have to be, you know, in this type of crisis, we need to be a little more, you know, sensitive about some of the things that we are complaining about or that we don't agree with.
I think Maria is 100% right in her concerns as well.
And again, the reason I had mentioned previously the council member, because they had done work for some folks in Dyckman that people had concerns about. And they were able to kind of not only make sure that people had an understanding of the rules, but had a copy of the rules because things have changed. So I think now they're a lot clearer. But after they had that conversation, they were like, oh, all right, cool. We'll make certain changes that we're supposed to make. Because again, as Maria said, that could be seeming threatening when people have probably never spoken to them before, especially if they're a newer business. And I would use the example of the Havana Heights that was trying to open when the pandemic began.
Right.
So again, I think it's important to address that folks need to get around. They need to get around safely. And it is not fair for you, Mary, to have to wait for people to walk by because there's so many things going on outside. But how can we best leverage, especially with there's a bunch of new places now, especially with newer locations or places that have been closed, just to like work as a community. Again, right? You can try that. If it doesn't work, then great. But at least you can say, hey, we reached out to you, or and nothing has been done, or you all were not following the rules. Because I think it's important to also think about that piece, even though people, the elderly folks and the disabled folks have the complete right to be able to get places on time without having to wait or have to negotiate with others to get through.
Carol, did you want to say something? No.
I really kind of, it's a ticklish situation, you know, because it's very sad that, you know, they're hanging on by their bootstraps, some of these places. So I kind of say we got to walk a middle ground. We can't have you, you know, not getting by. On the other hand, we can't really expect them to do things perfectly that they've never done before. So we have. That's what I think.
I mean,
we have to walk a middle ground.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say we have to, I'd like to see us walk a middle ground.
Agreed. Shuli, are you there? Are you with us?
Yes.
Hi, Shuli.
Hi, how are
you? Okay, how you doing?
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for inviting me.
Anything you wanted to share at this point?
Oh no, I really have. You guys are much more experienced on this board than I am. I just wanted to. I know I haven't been able to come so much to the in-person meetings because we have staff constraints. But now with Zoom, I feel like I'm more able to attend because I'm not being out of the office, so to speak.
Cool. So, does everybody know Shuli?
I know Maria. She's helped me out a lot recently.
Shuli Gutman. Shuli is the executive director of Mariah Senior Center.
I know Carol.
I certainly do. I was trying to say I didn't hear your name right when you first came on, but certainly yes, of course.
I think I came on as Mariah. I see now here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hanging on the phone, so I don't get to see you. But hello.
Hello. Good to talk to you a little bit. It's a little sense of normalcy.
The next thing that came up, somebody brought up the air conditioners. I can't remember who it was. Is that you, Sally? I think it was Sally. Air conditioners.
Yeah, can you hold on? I just want to make a comment on this other Zoom I'm on, and then I'll be with you. 1 second.
We've been making those air conditioner calls, and we've actually had success. Some of our seniors have let us know that they actually did get their air conditioners.
Let me just back up, Shuli. Let me just back up for a minute, because the people that are not involved with, you know, the board, or, you know, with the WICOA or the centers, don't know the background, don't necessarily know the background about these air conditioners. So just maybe if you want to do that, Shuli, just back up out a little bit.
Oh, you want me to talk about it?
If you could.
The Department of the Aging is trying, since they can't really decide what they want to do about cooling centers. You know, in the past, historically, senior centers have been cooling centers. Other locations have been cooling centers. I think they're actually going to be opening some senior centers as cooling centers. They're making it optional now, and it's only going to be for their seniors, not for the general public. But in order to accommodate other seniors who might not be willing to go out or able to go out during Corona, there's been a very big high push campaign that's still not over to get free air conditioners to the seniors installed in their homes. And basically the senior centers have been making hundreds and hundreds of calls, and I'm told another list is dropping on Monday, to seniors to see if they are eligible to get these free air conditioners. And we have had some success with this. I personally do have some concerns, which are very similar to your concerns about the technology issue, that it's very nice that we're giving these seniors these air conditioners in their homes, but the biggest expense on an air conditioner is not the purchase or the installation. For me, the biggest expense is running it personally. And that's something that hasn't yet been addressed. And I would like to see that addressed. I know for myself, an air conditioner, yes, it's a one-time expense, but I hate to run it. And now that I'm working remotely a lot, on my own home, I hesitate to turn the air conditioners on as much. It's expensive. So we have to think about what we can do about that portion of it also. But the campaign itself seems to be successful, and it's up and running, and we keep getting lists of names to call, and we've been reaching out and trying to get air conditioners into these homes. Some people have expressed interest in fans, and unfortunately that's not part of the program.
You gotta close it.
Thank you. Anyone have anything else on air conditioners?
Oh, I said that I have a comment. I have been very successful. This is Maria, on reaching out to 311. They don't ask the many questions. They ask if the person, you know, the age and if they qualify for whatever services and things like that. We see in 3 days, these people have received the air condition and installed and everything. Now, the second part of the issue, which is the expense of paying the electricity.
Right.
Con Edison have a program. If you get a bill from them on the one of the loan pages that they send, there is a number there you can contact, especially for seniors and people that have low income. Like so I think we have to take advantage and inform people that there is another way to to use the air condition without thinking that the bill is going to be crazy. It is going to probably increase a little, but the Con Edison is giving seniors an opportunity to lower the cost. So, but then take advantage of some of companies are calling and saying, your Con Edison bill is too much, you'd like to switch to, and those I don't ask people to, to do. So then you may get a bill larger or higher than the one that you get from Con Edison. But that's the information. They only ask for, the age, the residence, if you have air conditioning before or you don't have it, if you have some type of illness and things like that. So it's really, they are really rushing this thing.
Right.
So when you call 311, they usually say you are number like 200. Well, that number goes fast down. So don't get discouraged. They'll take that call, within maybe 45 minutes. The longest that I have been on the line for that. So I urge people to use the 311. Unless you
Maria, one question.
Yes.
Do you think that, given that the fiscal year just began again, do you think they were rushing it because they were trying to close out fiscal year 20?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They used to let us say, do you live on the HPA, HPA building and things like that?
You guys are going to be great though, because I am modeling for you all of how to hustle this up, how to do all of this stuff. So be in touch by email, by phone.
All right. So that's what my experience so far.
Okay. Thank you, Maria.
I think they were
getting the information out about the bills.
Hold on.
We had a little hot weather, muggy weather, so I think they were predicting that it was going to be a hot summer. I think that was part of the rushing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, air conditioners, if they got it in October, wouldn't be very effective.
No. But the other thing in terms of, I know, with opening cooling centers, they're talking about, they used to have them open when there were successive 90-degree days. Now they're talking about the cooling centers not being opened until it's
95.
Three consecutive 95 plus degrees days.
Yep.
I mean,
right. Yeah.
I mean, that'll be like
and
never.
They're very fussy now. They're very fussy as to who would be it, because you have to be over 10,000 feet.
Well, with the social distancing and all that too, it's even worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did we, at one point, it was years ago, I looked at a map and it seemed like we did not have, or maybe we only had one in the community board district, one accessible cooling center. Is that still the case?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. We were a cooling center.
Okay.
Except now we're not. I don't think we were the only one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to come cool off at your place.
Betty, are you with us? Betty? Betty, Betty. Betty? Betty Lehman. Are you muted? Are you with us? I don't know.
I'm sorry. Yes, I am with you.
Ah, all right.
Sorry about that.
Welcome aboard.
Okay. How is everybody?
Good.
Pretty good, considering we've been talking about a lot of different issues. I was waiting because I had an update, and Isabella gave the update and, what you took care of as far as the donations of books and magazines being delivered to Isabella.
We're very appreciative of the magazines that have come in. What happens is they are brought in either to myself or to the recreation department. They're dropped off at the main entrance because no one can get in the building. So they're taken to the library and then they're picked up either by myself or by the recreation department, and then they're brought upstairs. They're sanitized. They're sorted out and sanitized. Just be careful, and then we're able to distribute them to the residents. As you can imagine, it's very difficult for the residents because they haven't seen family or friends in April, May, June, almost 4 months now. We have just started a system of video chats. We've been doing that since the beginning, but we're also having window visits now, so people can arrange to have a window visit. We have a garden area in the back where people, can gather outside, and then we can bring someone down to the coffee shop where they have these floor-to-ceiling windows. And then we have also some windows in the other building, the 515 building. So what happens is the family member contacts the social worker and they work out a time. And then the staff brings down the resident to the area, and then the family comes to visit. The visiting times are limited to a half an hour. We're working also on a plan eventually to be able to allow in-person visits, but everything ties to what the governor determines. Right now, he's not permitting any in-person visits for anyone in the nursing homes anywhere in New York State. And until that changes, we can't do anything about bringing people in to visit. The only exceptions are if someone is actively dying, in the process of dying, then someone, then we can make arrangement for one family member to come in and visit. But other than that, we can't do anything, unfortunately. But we're very appreciative of the donations of magazines or any books, English or Spanish or both would be fabulous. So we're really happy about that. So that's it. We have our recreation therapy group working very well with the residents, using video chats to connect to family members and so forth. So that's something that's an ongoing process. And that's all I have for now.
Betty, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have, I would be happy to do an activity if there's a way that I could Zoom in. Do they have the capability? Like if someone wanted to do a planting thing, I could get supplies to you and then I could teach people remotely, if that would be of interest.
I talked to them about that because a couple of groups reached out to me early on to try to set something up on Zoom. The problem is that they can't bring more than one. It's only one person at a time.
Okay.
And you can't even bring them. it's so weird that people are not able to even gather in the dining room for meals. They have to be served meals in their rooms. It's so it's so counterintuitive to what you really think care for the elderly or anybody should be, that we should be so isolated. But the only way that you can protect the population that we serve is to keep them separated.
Right.
We do, and we have very few people that have COVID right now, and those two are in a separate floor. Okay. And you know, we're very anxious to make sure that we keep COVID out of the facility, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yep. Maybe I can come up with some sort of garden to go thing where I can just have instructions. And so it could at least be activity people could do, and they could do it on their own.
That might be fine. In fact, I'll mention your idea to the rec therapy people. I'll be going into the office not tomorrow. Well, probably not tomorrow. Monday. So I'll have a conversation with them, and then I can reach out to you, Sarah, and
great.
Let you know what their thinking is.
Okay.
Thank you for the
We've been running a lot of Zoom programming, and I'm always interested in more options for teaching the seniors new crafts and new projects. And we've been getting projects to them as well, and then doing them together via Zoom. So if anybody has any leads on those kinds of programming, I'd be very interested in hearing them.
Okay, great.
With the population we serve in the nursing home, many of them are extremely frail, but they don't have, each person does not have an iPad or a phone. We provide that to them with the limited number that we have. And we, of course, sanitize them anytime they're used. We don't have people sitting around with their own phones where you could say, okay, let's get a Zoom thing together, and then you get 3 or 4 people or 5 or whatever, 10 zooming in, because that population's frail and doesn't have a lot of resources.
Right. No, what I was thinking, I would come up with some activities where I could just write out the instructions very simply. And that people would do, because most of the stuff, I'm not crazy about Zoom. I just think I'm too old. Just so some people who don't want to read or look through magazines might, want to like plant a little plant, something to put in their window. And so if I could have a garden to go that gave them the soil, some seeds or something like that, then they could plant something. And so if you could, or maybe some recyclable art activities or something.
Okay.
But I'm happy to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see you give a class on how to make those wearable items that you created out of plastic bags.
Yeah. Cool.
Quite
I'll just take some pictures. I'll do a fashion show.
Okay. All right.
And some of that stuff is very simple for me to just outline in a way that's explainable. So.
Very good. So I'll get back to you on Tuesday or Monday. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Anybody else have anything to share with us about this? Or any other questions for Betty? Okay. Jay.
Yes.
You're on.
Yes. I'm on for what purpose?
You talked about a possible reso.
Oh, okay. Let me read it to you. Whereas 98 patients of Isabella Geriatric Facility and 3 workers of Isabella Geriatric Facility died of COVID-19 as of the end of April this year. And whereas 25% of the workforce were infected with COVID-19 as of the end of April. And whereas we have not been updated on mortality and morbidity at Isabella, that's actually not accurate. Betty just updated us. So I'm willing to change that. And whereas the mortality rate of 14% at Isabella is 135% above the mortality rate of New York State nursing home residents. And whereas Isabella has failed to accurately portray the severity of the crisis at their facility, Community Board 12, Manhattan, urges Attorney General Letitia James to investigate the causes of the crisis at Isabella and responsibility of MJH in this continuing crisis. Be it further resolved that the State Senate and the State Assembly Health Committees open investigations into the causes of the deaths and the spread of infections at Isabella.
Carol?
This is Maria. Jay, you finished?
Oh, okay. I have a comment.
I'm finished reading the resolution. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were done.
I'm sorry. My doorbell rang. I didn't hear the end of it, Jay. What did you say? Be resolved what?
I'm sorry. I said, Community Board 12, Manhattan, urges Attorney Letitia James to investigate the causes of the crisis at Isabella and the responsibility of MJH in this continuing crisis. Be it further resolved that the State Senate and the State Assembly Health Committees open investigations into the causes of the deaths and the spread of infection in Isabella.
Hold on, I gotta get the door.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, so Isabella has reported to the Health and Environment Committee. So, you know, if you're saying that they haven't reported to the Aging Committee, I don't know because I'm not on this committee.
I have a response if you don't mind. First of all,
okay,
whatever you want to say about MJHS or Isabella, all those numbers were reported on a daily basis to New York State Department of Health since the beginning. Yep. And those are a matter of public domain. And I happened to look at the website yesterday, and we had a total, since March, total of 68 deaths at Isabella, not 98, but 68. So that number 98 is not accurate, number one. I don't know where that came from, but it was never on the New York State Department of Health registry, nor did we ever report any such number. So I need to tell you that that fact is not accurate. And if you want, I can send you the link. I believe it was already sent out in a prior email with the Health and Environment Committee. Right. Anybody is able to check it. And we are, you know, if you look at actually that particular website contains all of the deaths in all nursing homes in New York State. So I need to address that right up front. And for whatever you want to say, we have done everything by the book, no exceptions made since the beginning. So I need to be very clear about that. Anybody, the Department of Health, the Attorney General, anyone can come in and inspect us at any time. And they have been. The Department of Health is in many times since the beginning, not just us, but all over the state of New York, looking at what's being happened, what's going on, what's not going on, etc. So I know that this has been a difficult situation in the state for Isabella and for all nursing homes, but we're not alone. And whatever's going to come out of any kind of a commission or Attorney General inspection, it's got to do with not just Isabella, but all of the nursing homes. There's a lot of contention, as you may know from the press, about why Governor Cuomo declared on March 25th to the hospitals to discharge patients that had COVID to the nursing home. So even if you had a nursing home that had no COVID, you start getting hospital patients who have COVID, and guess what? You've now created a major problem within your nursing home, which is why all of this is really such a problem all over the state. I have a problem with a resolution that singles out Isabella, because it doesn't take much for you to look at Jewish Home or Tryon Home, Amsterdam House, any one of the nursing homes in New York State and realize that we're right in the mix with everybody else in terms of the kinds of horrible problems that we've had in terms of death. Nobody wants to see that number of people die anywhere, but unfortunately it happened. But I cannot support, and I think it's really not good that we have a resolution in this community singling out Isabella, especially given all of the work that we've done with the community for decades to provide services that no other nursing home provides. So, you know, it's a little bit problematic. And, you know, I can't tell you how disappointed I am in that effort to single out Isabella and punish us for something that we're really a victim of as much as anyone else. End of story. I've said my piece.
I agree.
Maria? Maria.
Thank you. I'm going to play the role of Jim Berlin as parliamentarian. Number one, a resolution like this.
Be careful with what you say now, Maria.
Huh?
Be careful with what you say now.
I know. Well, I'm going to add on that. But anyway, thank you, Rabbi. First of all, this resolution was no second, so we didn't have the right to have a discussion on it. Number three, which is probably the most important thing, is that this meeting is in July. Even if we come up with resolution or with votes and things like that, it's not going to be an effective resolution because this has to be brought in September to our committee again and then to the full board at the end of September. So I will very much, with respectful Jay, that we've been on the community board for years and years and hundreds of years. I would like him to remove this resolution from our meeting today because of what I just, explained. It has nothing to do with Isabella, or if we like them, if we don't like them. And there's been so many discussions about this particular issue since the beginning of the coronavirus or the COVID, whatever it is that they call it. So Jay, I will, I hope that you're, we are in agreement. I think that at this time, this resolution should not be presented to our meeting.
I appreciate both the response of Betty and Maria. However, I believe the figure 98 refers to Isabella patients who are infected with COVID-19 and subsequently died wherever they may have passed away. As to the problem of looking at how to resolve this, the reason I suggested that the state attorney general and the various legislative committees look at that is because of many of the reasons Betty outlined as to the governor's responsibility in this matter, which lead me to believe it's extremely doubtful that his health department will conduct a fair and complete investigation because it would inevitably involve his responsibility. And I want to point out that 6% of the nursing home residents in New York State died of COVID-19, while 14% of the residents died at Isabella. As to what Betty said about the excellent work in the past of Isabella before it had been acquired by MJH, as is now known, I fully agree. And I think in the past, the outreach which Betty supervised has been excellent. And I furthermore think she's been a big asset to the community board, but those are besides the point. As to the discussion of the question at the May Health Committee, which of course was 2 months ago, I felt it was inadequate and self-serving on the part of Isabella mainly had the purpose of justifying their actions under the circumstances. And I furthermore think that the deaths of 1/7 of the Isabella residents might very, very well have been caused by the failure of Isabella to properly segregate COVID-19 patients, which they are now doing a good job of doing. So given those circumstances, I think there's a certain amount of urgency to the question, and I would urge the committee to take it up.
Okay, may I say something?
Maria, go ahead.
Okay, since I was the one that asked, parliamentarian question that we really do not have the presentation of this resolution, since there was not a motion, a second of the motion to be discussed. Since this is also has been presented to the Health Committee, which is the main focus of that particular resolution, not the Aging Committee. We could join with them, in the future, work. But I think that at this time, Jay, it's not productive to hold this committee on this particular resolution, because you are stating a lot of facts, a lot of information there that I don't know. I would not be able to vote yes or no on this particular resolution. So I'm asking you respectfully once more that to hold up, because Isabella is doing a job. They probably, weren't aware that this situation was going to grow, as much as it did. But we also have to be conscious that that organization is providing a great service to our community and to the city at large. I think we have to wait a little, because as Betty said, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Bringing a resolution of this magnitude to our committee, which is not going to go any place, because this month, the committee on the whole, we don't meet in August, and then we have to go to September. So maybe also you can, Jay, send us something in writing, send this resolution in writing to Mary, and she will, disperse that to our committee members, and we can really, look a little further into this thing. I like to be a liaison. I mean, just a person to, to come up to some agreements, because I don't, the way I feel, I don't know how the other feel, but I don't think that we'll be able to vote on this particular resolution right now.
First of all, this resolution was not presented to the Health Committee, nor was a resolution on questions of Isabella, which was only discussed at the May meeting and not the June meeting. Resolutions were not called for, so the Health Committee is a separate entity. There's nothing that prevents our Aging Committee from dealing with this question, however, except insofar as the committee doesn't wish to deal with the question. I personally feel it's an emergency situation. I don't feel it was handled well. I think Governor Cuomo handled it poorly. I think insufficient guidelines were given to nursing homes. But with all of that, I think when 1/7 of the customers of any business die, something went wrong. There's no way of getting around the question that of the 700 beds at Isabella, 98 people who had been residents of Isabella and were probably infected at Isabella subsequently passed away wherever they might have died.
Jay, you need to know something. As I mentioned earlier and before, we had a total
Excuse me, Betty, let me just answer him because he was referring to what my conversation. I am not saying that is something wrong with the resolution. I am talking about the process that this particular resolution at this time in the meeting in July, who's not an official meeting of our committee, then we have to take a position right now in support or no support. That's my only thing that I'm not disputing the fact that he's stating in that, that document. I am saying that we are going to be taking a position right now that is really not going to carry because until we meet back officially in September. That's the only thing I'm saying. Thank you.
And I think that, I know I for myself, I need to see it in writing. So Jay, I need for you to send that resolution so that we can have something visual to look at.
First of all, let me respond and say, if the committee does not wish to respond to this, they have every right not to respond to this. I just want to make sure that this discussion appears in the minutes along with the resolution that I proposed. And if the committee doesn't wish to vote on it, then they shouldn't. I disagree, but if everyone else feels that way, then that's the way they feel.
Well, I think that they maybe as the chair of the committee, I have to, make a decision on that.
I need to say something. If your purpose is to find out what happened, you really need to be looking at not only Isabella, but all of the nursing homes in the community, not just Isabella. And you need to make it broader. And you need to talk about the fact that the governor mandated hospitals discharge patients to the nursing homes, that there was no testing equipment in the nursing homes until the end of April. We didn't have any, you had no idea who had COVID and who didn't until 6 weeks into the pandemic. So you're separating people, but you're not sure, or they may have had COVID, but be asymptomatic, and they could be infecting. There's a lot of problems, but it can't be just Isabella. It cannot be, because that's really unfair.
My question then would be, what was the mortality rate at Fort Washington and the other facility you mentioned as compared to Isabella's?
Well, you got to remember, they all have different bed sizes. So I believe Fort Tryon is 200 beds. Isabella's 705 beds.
Disputing the size of the facility.
But you have to take that into effect.
You're
using percentages, Jay.
The percentage of the people who died in the facilities. You're 100% right. In a facility with 200 beds, if 14% of the people—
No, it's not, Jay, it's not. It's 68, not 98. You keep saying 98. It's not. It's 68.
The total deaths of all Isabella patients who died of COVID-19, to the best of my knowledge, whether or not they died in Isabella or in a separate facility, was stated as 98.
No,
and I was concerned with where they were infected.
You need to know,
not where they bought the farm.
We're not reporting deaths in the hospital because the hospital is reporting them. Have you gotten any statistics from New York Presbyterian or from Mount Sinai? Have you?
No, I have
not.
Well,
that's part of the question.
And I'm sure Isabella has no interest in investigating that either, since it would only make the numbers look worse.
It's not. I really
Okay.
I can't even have this conversation anymore because
listen,
I'm highly offended that in a facility that's been as good to this community as Isabella has been, that we're being singled out.
Okay, I need to interrupt both of you right now, please, if I may. I think.
Is it open for discussion still?
No.
No.
Not right this moment.
I was going to make sort of a comment that.
Hold on.
But you don't want to hear it.
Hold on. Hold on. I think, and those of you that have more experience than I do, I think at this point we need to take a vote on whether, I'm not sure, Maria, help me with this. Take a vote on whether we want to.
Okay, so let's see.
Concern ourselves with this resolution today, or
is it seconded or not? Was it seconded? If it
seconded,
wasn't seconded,
this is what I was going to say, Rabbi. Since the resolution presented by Jay was not second, I made a clarification that there were no seconding, so we could discuss the merits of the resolution. We had to take at that time then a vote, which we didn't. So, and I asked Jay to take the resolution out of the, I mean, we can put it on the minutes, we can you know, talk about it, but officially there is no merit of resolution at this point. So if he says, no, he would like to keep this resolution on the floor, then we need someone to second the resolution and then proceed to a vote. But I say that even if we take a vote, either way, this has to be ratified in September. And there is like 2 or 3 months period between now and there, you know, to continue working on that. In the meantime, I suggest that he can send us that on writing to Mary, so we can really take line by line to take a look at this resolution.
Exactly.
Which may have very good merit. But I think we have to go by what, you know, our process have to follow, which is right now to have someone second the resolution, then we'll take a vote on either table the resolution or move it to committee back in September, which will be my recommendation.
Couldn't we have a little more discussion about it?
Well, unless we have a second the resolution, we cannot have more discussion.
Right.
I see. Okay.
So is there a second to this resolution?
First of all, I'd like to point out
Jay.
whether or not there's a second to the resolution, that doesn't preclude discussion of the question.
No, Jay, I'm sorry. We have to have a discussion after the resolution is second.
No, that's not true. We can discuss Isabella, Fort Washington, or any nursing home on this committee at any time, whether or not there's a resolution on the floor. Same like we discussed restaurants without there being a resolution on the floor.
But we're talking about resolution, Jay. This is a different, you know.
Right.
The woman asked if she could discuss the matter. She didn't ask if she could discuss the resolution.
But I'm trying to get. What
you
we
mean
need
what
is a
I
second
what
to
I
the
asked?
resolution. So.
Well.
Is there a second to the resolution?
No.
Richard Allman is speaking and we can't hear him.
Richard, are you muted?
Not anymore.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
All I was saying is I think we're bumping heads on something that we don't need to bump heads on. It was appropriate to call for a second to the resolution, and that should be done. If there isn't a second, then we'll leave it up to the chair what other discussions might happen, and there's no particular reason that any discussion might not happen. As for me, I got to get back to work shortly, so I hope this moves quickly.
Yeah, and we're nearly at the end of our time here too, so, but anyway, okay, so as far as I can tell, nobody's willing to second the resolution. Yes, no? No takers, going once, going twice. No second to the resolution, okay.
Mary?
So, yes.
Can I ask you to make an exception to whatever procedure we may have? I would like to hear what Carol had to say.
Yeah. Okay, so Carol, you had some input?
Well, a couple of things, and I truthfully, I believe, I'm not sure, that there is a big investigation going on of this whole matter of referring patients to nursing homes. Now, what I would say to that is that in a sense precludes the resolution in the sense that, as I think it was Betty who said, all of the nursing homes that Cuomo referred the patients to are being investigated. Now, whether that investigation will be, what's happening with the investigation, I don't know. But my understanding is there is an investigation of that issue. Does anyone else share that knowledge or?
I can confirm that is in fact going on.
Right, that was my understanding.
It is going on, or it is going on?
Going on, it just started. It's an investigation.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It started with the concept of why the governor was discharging people to nursing homes.
Exactly. It is an investigation going on. I thought so.
Right.
So just to follow up with that thought, Jay, since there is an investigation going on, it would seem a little bit, what should I say, out of line for us to jump in and make this resolution, because we've got to wait until, and somebody was talking about September, we really have to wait to see what comes out of the investigation.
Do we
now,
in fact know who's investigating?
I was reading that there's an investigation. Maybe Betty knows. I'm not sure.
The Department of Health and the Attorney General are working on this.
I thought it was the Attorney General, yes. And
that was
I'll say one other thing, Jay. Yeah, that really is my understanding. So I'm jumping in with that thought that this is, this is like jumping in and like the tail wagging the dog, because this investigation is ongoing, and I'm sure it will have to be thorough. Otherwise, there'll be tremendous outcry from everybody. That having been said, I just want to add one other little piece here, Jay. I think it's a little bit, now I don't want to use the word unfair, because life is really, we know sometimes isn't fair, but maybe I would say a little bit presumptuous of us on the aging committee to put through this resolution, to second it, or even to maybe pursue it. This is like eating our own. I mean, truthfully, Isabella is one of the backbones of the community and has been for many years. It doesn't seem like a healthy approach. And I mean healthy in the sense of a I don't want to say sane, but it doesn't seem like a positive approach for what the committee is really, mandated for. I feel a little uneasy. It's like if somebody started to say that Dyckman Senior Center was unsanitary. rather than maybe all of the, it's turning on your own, and I'm not comfortable with that. And that's,
could I make a comment as well?
Say.
Could I make a comment as well? I think that if we're looking at this as an issue of what's going on with the nursing homes, we need, as Betty mentioned, to have the data for all the nursing homes in the community board district. And that has to be looked at. And then, you know, something has to come out of that. But I feel like we've come to a conclusion without knowing the facts. And as Betty has mentioned, some of the numbers are contrary to what has been reported. So I would feel, I'm not a member of the committee, I'm not even a public member, so you can ignore what I say, but this would make me feel uncomfortable as a community board member. That the research seems to not be complete, or there's some question about the quality of the data. And since it is publicly available, it seems like that research could be done easily and should have been done.
Anybody else? So I think that the procedure now is Jay will send me a copy of the resolution. I will send it to all of the people who are on board here today. And the committee members, because there's a couple of people not here.
How are you, Johnny? How are you?
And we can look at it and we can.
Which meeting was that, the community board meeting?
Sorry?
Oh, well, actually, yeah, I would, one of the people put a resolution through, or the resolution, singling out, that's going on right now.
Carol, I'm not hearing you. I don't know why.
Singling Isabel for those deaths. That's really causing a lot of consternation.
Hello? If there's yes, staff on this call, perhaps there's someone who should be muted at this point.
Because we got a letter from the Department of Age that they're sending us another list of fair conditioning potential that we have to follow up on. And I think that some of the—
Hey, Carol, I think you need to be muted.
Yeah.
Good approach, Mariel.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so I think at this point that we are going to table this resolution for now until we get the copy of the written resolution. We're able to go over it, each and every one of us, and come back in September, Maria?
Well, I think that Jay also have to agree to give us the resolution so we can proceed. Well, we are not asking to just forget about it. We're just giving some time to analyze it further, and then we can do that.
Okay.
So Jay has to.
Yes.
Will you get that resolution to me so I can send it out to the
as soon as possible, I will.
Okay, thank you very much. And
you'll then distribute it to the committee?
That's correct.
Oh, great. Fine.
Okay. And does anybody have any announcements?
I continue also distributing food. The next delivery is going to be for next week because of the holiday. There is some issues about the food being sent to different areas and things like that. So as of now, I've been giving out 154 meals to the immediate community, and also anybody will give me their telephone numbers. I will make sure that I deliver the food to them if they cannot come and pick it up from the front of my building. It's been very successful because it's really the communication between, you know, people. You learn a lot about them, you know, and I think that this is a great community that we need to help those that are, you know, that are in need. So I'm very pleased with that.
I have an announcement.
Thank you. Okay.
It's really a thank you to the committee. By virtue of you letting me present at one of your meetings, I actually met Carol and we did arrange to do an e-waste recycling event that was scheduled for Inwood Hill Park. I actually worked with Lower East Side Ecology Center, with Carol, with the Dyckman Houses to set up a satellite location, which for instance, Inwood Hill Park would have staffed, so we would have doubled our e-waste recycling event. And that wouldn't have happened had you not invited me to your meeting. So unfortunately, COVID happened before the event could take place, but we will do it in the future when this is over. But that was a direct result of you having me come and speak to your committee.
Great.
So I thank you for that. And now let's beat this pandemic.
You know, seriously. So our next meeting will be on August 6th at 10:30 a.m. Okay.
Ooh, Mary, do we have to meet on August? I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Committee, what do you think? Should we take a vote?
We are off in August, the community board.
Yeah. We had said we were going to meet in August also. I don't know, like Maria says, maybe that's not necessary. What do people think?
Well, I don't know. I just, you know.
Yeah.
I'd be very comfortable leaving it to the discretion of the chair. If there are agenda items that need attention, then we'll do it. And
I agree with
the possibility.
My non-vote is to vote for it. We're in the midst of a pandemic. I think it's important that we are visible to the community, especially with our most vulnerable population.
I gotta say, I'm not hearing much enthusiasm for a meeting. I would just, if Mary sees a reason and we need to change that, then we will. In the middle of a pandemic, I could use a 2-hour break too.
I don't know. There may be some things we need to want to follow up on. I don't know if it's proper to email the committee members with any updates on a couple of these things.
Yeah, sure, an email is appropriate. And realistically, you've got till the 28th when the committee of the whole meets and when the August calendar is put together to make any further decisions.
That's true, because we do have the committee of the whole, yeah.
At this point, we don't have a meeting scheduled. Let's go forward from there.
Okay. Hold on, I have somebody on the meeting that wants to make a contribution to the discussion. Eleanor? Eleanor, are you there?
She is muted.
Yes.
There you go. Go ahead. Eleanor?
Muted again.
Eleanor, you need to unmute yourself.
I just did.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Eleanor Cuello. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We meet at the office building at 100 at your main office. And we're here to support the Community 12 district. We did a card writing campaign with Isabella. So I'm glad that we're able now to participate in the book magazine. And so my program chairperson, Ms. Monica Russell, will be reaching out to Community Board 12 chair to see how we can be of more service to the Inwood and Fort Washington Heights community. Thank you for having me.
Now tell me the sorority again, Alpha.
Delta Sigma Theta sorority incorporated. We send cards to the seniors in our catchment area, which was Fort Washington, Isabella, and Wahlberg.
Beautiful. Thank you so
if
much.
I could get a contact information, because we email Mr. Smith, but we don't get a response. So if we have another contact person that we can reach out and offer our service to the community, we would appreciate that.
You can certainly do that. Do you have an email?
Yes, Eleanor Coelho at Hotmail. I could put it in the chat. ELEANORQUALLO at hotmail.com.
Okay. I will email you my contact information.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, folks, I think this is it. We're going to call this meeting. We're going to close this meeting at 12:15 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. And we will not meet in August. I will update everyone on issues in at the committee of the whole meeting at the end of August. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah.
Happy 4th.
Be safe.
Be well, everyone. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone.
Miss you, Miss Carol.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.